All right, so get this right. What if you had like a secret weapon, but it's 2,500 years old?
Okay, I'm listening. A 2,500-year-old secret weapon, huh? I'm intrigued. What is it? Some, like, lost scroll?
Well, yeah. And you can use it for like everything.
Okay, now I really gotta know. For everything. Spill the beans.
Okay, so we're diving into The Art of War by Sun Tzu, you know.
Sun Tzu, huh? Like the ancient Chinese military guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of intense for like everyday life maybe, but
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, how's a war strategy book gonna help me with, I don't know, grocery shopping?
okay, so Sun Tzu was all about like the psychology of conflict and competition, right?
I see where you're going with this.
That's kind of everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Even if we're not like literally going into battle,
True, true. It's in business and relationships.
everywhere.
Okay, so how does this ancient wisdom apply to modern life then?
Okay, so one of the big things Sun Tzu talks about is choosing your battles.
Choosing your battles.
Yeah.
Okay, so like picking your fights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because every fight, even if you win, it has a cost.
Makes sense. It's not always about winning at all costs, right? Sometimes it's better to just walk away.
Right. There's this story about this person. They discovered their supplier was kind of like cheating them. Right?
Oh, man. Hate it when that happens.
Yeah, and they wanted to fight, go to court, the whole thing.
Yeah, makes sense. Get your justice and all.
But then they realized that that the legal battle would cost them a ton in terms of time, money, stress, all of that.
So what did they do?
They decided to just walk away, cut their losses, focus their energy somewhere else.
Wow. Not easy to do, but definitely smart in the long run. It's like protect your own energy.
Right, and think about it. How many times have you gotten sucked into like arguments or situations where you're like,
Totally drained.
and for what? Exactly. Sun Tzu would tell us to just chill out and choose our battles.
I think you might be onto something.
Oh, totally. There's so much more. Another thing Sun Tzu talks about is this idea of playing to your strengths.
Okay, that makes sense. Focus on what you're good at.
Exactly. But he takes it even further and says you got to exploit your opponent's weaknesses.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just being good at what you do, but also being strategic about where you focus your energy, right?
Exactly. It's about choosing your battles, like I was saying, going where you have the advantage.
So how do you, like, figure that out? How do you know what those areas are?
Well, first of all, Sun Tzu was big on self-awareness, like knowing your own strengths, weaknesses, just as much as your opponent's.
Be honest with yourself.
Right. It's like going to a job interview. Most people just say the generic stuff, like I'm a hard worker.
Team player. Yeah, we've all heard it.
But imagine like a candidate who actually did their research on the company, knows what their problems are, and can say, hey, here's how I can solve them.
Whoa, that's a power move.
Right. That's exactly the kind of strategic thinking Sun Tzu is all about.
So it's about knowing yourself, but also about knowing your audience, or like in Sun Tzu's case, the enemy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He was all about gathering information, always analyzing, looking for any little advantage he could find.
That reminds me, actually, how Sun Tzu used like signs and observation to his advantage. It's fascinating.
Yeah, he was a master of noticing things others didn't, like little details and using them to his advantage.
Okay, yeah. So like, what are some examples of that? How can we, I don't know, read the signs like he did?
So imagine you have a YouTube channel, right?
Okay, got it.
And you notice that like 75% of the people watching your videos aren't subscribing.
Oof. Yeah, that's a sign that something's not working.
Exactly. Maybe your call to action isn't clear or the content isn't quite right. By paying attention to that sign, you can adjust your strategy.
Okay, that's a really good point. It's about paying attention to the feedback, to the data, to those little signs, like you said.
Yeah, Sun Tzu was all about that, always observing, analyzing, changing his strategy based on what he learned.
Man, I'm starting to see how this applies to so many things.
Oh, we're just scratching the surface. But there's one more thing I got to mention before we really get into it.
Okay, hit me with it. What else is there?
Sun Tzu had this amazing system for managing, well, everything.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. I'm all about systems.
Right. So imagine you're facing like a massive to-do list, totally overwhelming.
Tell me about it. That's my life.
Well, Sun Tzu had a system for managing armies, and believe it or not, it can totally work for like your to-do list.
Wait, really? Okay, now I need to know more. Tell me everything.
Okay, picture this.
Okay, so picture this, right? I'm staring at this massive to-do list, feeling completely overwhelmed, like I'm drowning in tasks. You know the feeling.
Oh, yeah, totally. We've all been there. Sun Tzu, though, he knew that feeling, too. I mean, he was leading armies, managing troops, all that. Talk about a crazy to-do list.
No kidding. So, What was his secret? How did he handle it all?
He had this strategy called dividing and conquering. Instead of trying to tackle everything at once, he broke those huge challenges down, smaller, manageable pieces.
Okay, that makes sense. Bite-sized pieces, right? But how do you actually do that? With a to-do list, I mean.
All right, so there's this system. Some people call it naming your days. So instead of one giant to-do list, you assign different types of tasks to different days of the week.
Naming your days. Interesting. So, like, how would that work?
Imagine this, right? Mondays, those are for all the administrative stuff, emails, paperwork, catching up.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Getting all the boring stuff out of the way.
Right. Then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, that's for like focused creative work, writing, designing, brainstorming, all that.
I like it. Structure, focus. Yeah, I can see how that would be helpful.
Exactly. And then Thursdays, maybe those are for meetings, collaborations.
So you're not constantly switching gears, getting pulled in different directions all the time.
Exactly. More efficient, less stress, like having a battle plan for your week.
Love it. Totally sensory.
Totally. But it doesn't stop there. You knew that sometimes you need an extra push to actually stick to your goals.
Oh, tell me about it. Staying motivated can be tough.
And that's where Sun Tzu's most radical tactic comes in. Burning ships.
Wait, what? Burning, like, actual ships?
Okay, maybe not literally, but the idea is to remove the option of retreating. Like making a decision so big, so final, there's no going back.
Oh, I get it. It's a mindset thing, right? No escape. You got to commit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shift from should to must. No more doubts. You just do it.
Powerful stuff. But, I mean, that sounds kind of scary, right? Maybe even a little reckless?
Yeah, it can be. There's a story, actually, of this one person who was building their business slowly, step by step, before they decided to go all in, burn the ships.
So it's about building up to that point, not just jumping in head first.
Finding that balance between boldness and strategy. But remember that whole winning without fighting concept we were talking about?
Oh, yeah, the ultimate victory. Sounded kind of mystical almost.
Well, there's this modern idea called blue ocean strategy. It's all about finding a market where there's no competition.
Whoa. Now that sounds amazing. A market with no competition. Tell me more.
Think about it like this. Most businesses are fighting for every little bit of market share, right? This is like the red ocean full of sharks, blood, all that.
Yikes. Sounds brutal.
Totally.
Yeah.
But imagine if instead of battling it out in that red ocean, you could create your own space, a calm blue ocean where you're the only one.
Okay, I'm loving this visual. So how do you find that blue ocean then? Is it about inventing something completely new?
Sometimes, yeah. But it can also be about looking at the existing market in a new way, finding those unmet needs, those gaps nobody else is addressing.
So it's about innovation, offering something truly unique and valuable.
Exactly. That's Sun Tzu's ultimate victory, succeeding without having to fight.
Okay, that's amazing. But are there like real life examples of this blue ocean strategy? I mean, does it really work?
Absolutely. Think of Cirque du Soleil, for example. They took the traditional circus, which was kind of dying, and made it into this totally new experience.
Oh, yeah, that's a great example. They weren't just another circus. They created their own thing, their own blue ocean.
Exactly. Understanding their audience, their strengths, the market, all of that. It's like Sun Tzu in action.
Wow, this is blowing my mind. But even with all these great strategies, sometimes you need a little help figuring things out, right?
Totally. It's easy to lose sight of the big picture, get bogged down in the details.
Exactly. That's where this tool called a SWOT analysis comes in. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, vaguely. Remind me what it is again.
All right, so SWOT, it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's basically a way to analyze where you are, where you could be better, all that.
So you list out like your strengths, the things you're good at, and your weaknesses, the things you need to work on.
Yep. Then you look outside, like at the market, the industry, and you identify opportunities, things you can use to your advantage. And then threats, those are the potential problems, things that could hold you back.
So it's like a 360-degree view of yourself or your business or whatever.
Exactly. Being honest about your strengths and weaknesses helps you figure out how to use the opportunities and avoid those threats. It's like Sun Tzu, knowing yourself and your enemy, right?
It all comes back to strategy.
Totally. And the cool thing is, you can use a SWOT analysis for pretty much anything, your career, relationships, even just figuring out your weekend plans.
Okay, I'm convinced I need to start using this SWOT thing like right now.
You won't regret it. It's seriously helpful. Speaking of helpful, there's one last piece of wisdom from Sun Tzu that I think is super relevant these days, with information overload, all that.
Okay, what is it? Lay it on me.
Sun Tzu was obsessed with information. He thought it was like crucial to winning.
Wait, are we talking about spies now?
Oh yeah, definitely spies. He had like a whole system for using different types of spies all to gather information.
This is getting good. Ancient spies. Tell me more.
So first, he had local spies, people from the enemy's territory. They knew the area, the culture, all that.
Okay, yeah, like insider information.
Exactly. Then there were inward spies. Those were people planted within the enemy's ranks, sometimes disguised as officials or advisors, pretty sneaky.
Whoa, that's like some real spy movie stuff.
Right. Then he used doubled spies. Those were enemy spies who were captured, but then agreed to work for Sun Tzu, feeding him information.
Wow, that's next level.
Then there were expendable spies. They were given fake information and sent back to the enemy to spread misinformation and chaos.
So like psychological warfare.
Exactly. And finally, surviving spies. These guys went on really dangerous missions to bring back super important information.
It sounds like Sun Tzu had a whole network of spies working for him, gathering information, even like manipulating the enemy's perception of reality.
Exactly. He knew knowledge was power. The more you know about your opponent, the better you can outsmart them. And that applies to, like, everything.
Yeah, true. So how do we apply this spy mentality today? I mean, I'm not going to start recruiting secret agents.
Well, of course not. But the idea is the same. Gathering information is still super important.
It's like market research, right?
Yeah.
Or competitive analysis. It's all about getting the information that gives you an advantage.
Exactly. Sun Tzu would be all over social media, LinkedIn, all that, collecting data like crazy.
You'd be the ultimate online sleuth.
Totally. And we should be too, in a way. Whether you're negotiating a deal or starting a business, remember the power of information.
Do your research, ask questions, and always try to figure out what's really going on.
It's like Sun Tzu said, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. And by enemy, he meant any challenge, really.
Okay, so there you have it. Our crash course in the art of war. We've talked about everything from choosing your battles to managing your time like a general to even thinking like a spy.
It's been a wild ride. So what are you taking away from all this?
Honestly, there's so much. But for me, it's the strategic thinking. That's the big one. It's not always about brute force.
It's about being smart, adaptable, thinking ahead.
And that's true for so many things. Our careers, our relationships, everything.
Sun Tzu's wisdom is like timeless.
Yeah.
And the best part is it's not about rigid rules. It's about principles that you can adapt to any situation.
Totally. Be flexible, adaptable, and always be looking for that advantage.
And if you can do that, you're well on your way to winning your own battles, whatever they may be.
Okay, folks, that about wraps up our deep dive into the art of war. But before we go, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, what are your big takeaways?
Have you used any of these ideas before in your own life?
And most importantly, what's the one thing you're going to put into action after listening to all this?
Let us know in the comments. We always love to hear your thoughts. And hey, if you're feeling really inspired, go check out The Art of War for yourself. It's a quick read full of amazing insights that might just change the way you see everything.
And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up.
We'll be back soon with more awesome deep dives into topics that will surprise you, inspire you, and maybe even make you laugh a little. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
And one more thing before you go. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out.
It does. Helps us make more of these deep dives for you guys. But there's one more thing about The Art of War. I just got to share. It's too cool.
Okay, lay it on me. What else did Sun Tzu have up his sleeve?
Okay, so he had this way of analyzing situations, right? But not just like the physical battlefield. He was talking about metaphorical terrains. He called them the 9 types of ground.
Whoa, okay, metaphorical terrains. I'm listening. That sounds interesting. What's that all about?
So think of it like this. Every situation, right? Business, relationships, even just deciding what to eat. It's like navigating a different kind of terrain.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this. So what are some of these like metaphorical terrains Sun Tzu talked about?
Well, there's dispersive ground. That's where you feel kind of scattered, like your energy is all over the place.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Like when you have a million things going on and can't focus.
Exactly. Then there's frontier ground. That's when you're entering new territory, like starting a new job or something.
Makes sense. New beginnings, new challenges.
Right. Then there's contentious ground. Those are the really competitive situations, like a tough negotiation or a cutthroat industry.
Oh, yeah, those are tough. High stakes, high pressure.
Exactly. And then there's communicative ground. That's where you have to manage relationships, alliances, all that.
It's like he took these military concepts and applied them to everyday life. It's so cool.
Right. And he keeps going. There's focal ground, a key area that gives you an advantage if you control it,
Uh-huh.
and then serious ground where like you've invested a lot, the stakes are high.
So each type of ground has its own challenges, and you have to adjust your approach based on what kind of terrain you're on.
Exactly. And it's not just the external situation, but also your internal state.
Mm.
He talks about difficult ground, where you might be facing internal obstacles, feeling stuck. Then there's encircled ground, that feeling of being trapped, like there's no way out.
Yeah, that feeling of being surrounded can be paralyzing.
And finally, there's deadly ground, the most dangerous one. That's where you have to fight to survive.
Intense. But it's a good reminder that even in the toughest situations, you can still strategize, find a way forward.
Exactly. Sun Tzu wasn't about giving up. He was about resourcefulness, adaptability, always looking for that strategic edge.
It's incredible how these ideas are still relevant, you know? It's like he made a map for navigating life's challenges, and it still works centuries later.
That's Sun Tzu for you. But before we wrap this up, we have a little challenge for you guys.
Ooh, a challenge. I like it. What is it?
So we've covered a lot, right? Choosing your battles, playing to your strengths, managing your time, even that whole spy thing.
It's been quite the journey.
So here's the challenge. What's the one thing you're going to do differently after hearing all this?
What really resonated with you? What idea are you going to take and use in your own life?
Let us know in the comments. We're really curious to hear how you're applying these ideas. And if you're feeling inspired, go check out The Art of War for yourself. It's a short read, but full of amazing wisdom. Might just change your perspective on things.
And one last time, don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this deep dive.
We'll be back soon with more awesome topics, stuff that'll surprise you, inspire you, and yeah, maybe even make you laugh a little.
Yeah.
Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.